So as I've dived out the car, picked up my rucksack and marched away, and this guy sort of looking at us, from the music outside the music shop, like, what's the matter with him? Like, oh, yes, see you, buddy, yeah. I'm just marching. I mean, what are the chances of that happening? It's not like, you go from, from when that did happen, that occurrence, from when that did happen, it's not like I went like 20 mile up the road and stayed there for 2 months and then came back, I mean, you don't know where you're going. This is like a hitch from a couple in a Volkswagen to Lake Louise, and then I haven't got a map with this, I don't know where I'm going, and I'm like sort of 200 miles somewhere else. And then I have the idea to backtrack to the same town just because there's a hostel there that has a soft, flat grass that I can put my tent on and get a nice light kip. And then a hitch from a fella who works in that shop right outside the shop to be stopped at. I mean, it's just, when you hear Elon Musk saying, it's all a simulation, like, fucking hell, it might be, it might be. These things are just too crazy. I mean, I've had a few of them, in my life. And so marching away quickly from there. Now, I am maybe only about 30 mile down the road, but now I'm sort of a bit freaked out, I'm 30 mile down the road, but I'm a bit freaked out I remember busking outside of a supermarket. I remember some fella giving us some money. So I'm sort of sitting on the ground, with this little mandolin from the shop 30 miles up the road originally. But I've obviously felt I needed to make some money for food, or maybe I've got a little bit savings, but it seems to be going down a bit quick, And so I remember doing that. And then I remember this sort of near there was like this sort of building that was an outside sort of park thing, and there was maybe 3 lasses and about 5 lads, sort of hobo, young 20-somethings hobo, travelling around. People, maybe they'd been, tomato picking or something, but I think they were Canadians, but they're a bit rough looking. Well, I suppose I was a bit rough looking by then, dishevelled, lived in. I remember sitting down with them or something, and I remember him saying, "What you got in the bag, like, He said the same, because like I said, the mandolin wasn't in the bag; it was sort of across the top. But I didn't think it looked like a musical instrument shape. I just said, just be stuff." She says, "That looks." I think he said something like, "That looks like a sort of musical instrument there." And I says, I think I've said, no, absolutely not. No, it's just something, And then he said, because he said a couple of months ago, Canadian ladders. He says a couple of months ago, he says there was a mandolin stolen from the music shop in this town that shall remain nameless, and he says. The hostel got blamed. There was somebody had done it who was in the hostel, and so they closed the hostel down. He come under pressure. The fella who ran it, he had to close it down because it was these travellers coming in. These hippie kids coming in. One of them, the word was one of them coming in, so it had to be closed down. And I was just like, I'm thinking. Just sounds like he was one of them in the hostel. I was just like, I've just getting here. I know nothing. I know nothing about that. And so anyway, nice meeting you, and have a nice rest of your trip. I'm off. So I'm off again. I'm now on the run. Technically, I'm on the run now from disgruntled young hitchhikers and the law. But a couple of days later, it's gone out my mind, It's gone out my mind, There's other things to be thinking about. There's bears. There's the danger of the situation that day. Where am I kipping? Where's the next meal coming from? You know, is there enough tread on the bottom of my shoe? Or is there any shoes lying on the side of the road? You know, just survival, really. You know, I have got enough money to get the plane ticket. That is all. I don't want to be digging into the plane ticket money, or else I'm completely fucked. So I'm out in the Wales. It's always out in the Wales. Thumb out. Probably been going on for another week, you know. Thumb out. And I'm thinking I just need to get down. At least I'm getting near the airport right now, you know, getting near the airport. And I'm starting to think of now, you know, I have noticed that if you've got a musical instrument in Canada, and I thought, well, this is the same in the States. It's not like the same towns, you know, like there is in Britain and Europe, where, you know, it's all old. It's all built around 1,000 years ago. So there's little streets everywhere, which is good acoustics. There's a lot of footpath, a lot of people walking about shopping. You know, it's all compact. I mean, that's it. That's what it's. That's how the tradition of busking came about, because of these sort of echoey, medieval and Victorian and streets. You know, and it's the same in all over Europe's the same. But that's not how America and where North America, USA and Canada is just big, you know. And, you know, the only way maybe plonk myself outside a supermarket, I did do that, you know, but it's still sparse amount of people coming in and out. These are like remote places. Then it would have been same in the States, you know. You'd have to be in a city. And I remember, I've just remembered there, you know, a few months earlier, something, me and Steve had got a hitch off this old fella in this motorhome. And we're in the motorhome and we're driving along. And it turns out he was a saxophone player. He was a busking musician. And, you know, that's just, it wasn't very lived in. So I get the feeling what he was doing. He had somewhere to live, but he was going to the big city to play saxophone, do a bit of busking, and then come back. Maybe he made stew over one night, you know, in the motorhome. He's probably done a lot of travelling in the past, but I think he said that. So you have to go into the big city. So, you know, that's, you know, I'm now thinking I can have adventure in Europe because I have in the past. So I can keep the adventure going, but I know I've got the streets, and that'll get us money, because it's all a bit spaced. Anyway, that was the thinking. That was part of me thinking anyway. And, you know, it's been a hell of a journey. And, you know, I mean, when you are full on traveling like that when you're young, well, when you're younger, time goes slow anyway. So like 1 week's like a month. And especially if you throw that, you know, you're throwing the traveling, and every day is like a week. There's that much happening. You know, maybe it's just the adrenaline going, you know, so it's just like, you know, I've got a lot of memories in my mind, and I feel like I've done it now, and the weather's changing, starting to get cold. So the thumbs out, the Volkswagen, another old Volkswagen camper pulls up. He's a fella, he's a British fella, and he's lived there for like 20 years, and he's going down to Vancouver for provisions. So it's like an 8-hour drive or something like that. Like, I mean, it's a long way from where we were. But like he was joking about it, saying, well, you know, you've got to go this out here, you've got to go this distance, you know, if it's anything more than soap powder and bread, you've got to drive this, you know, a full day and a half, you know. So I'm in that, and I'm just driving along, and he's like, I remember him saying, this might be one of the luckiest hitches you've got, like, because with us going straight down to Vancouver. And I'm just agreeing, I'm just talking, probably giving him my life story. He's given me his life story, yeah, you know, about all the travels. He drops us off. he's told us about Vancouver Island, and he says you should visit there. That's nice. So that's exactly what I did. So said goodbye to him. Off he goes. And I remember being at the ticket kiosk to get the ferry from the mainland to Vancouver Island. I mean, it's back to the rain again, like, fortunately I've got Army waterproof still. And I remember the woman on the kiosks when I was buying the ferry tickets saying, "Oh, your name's Redhead." I says, "Oh, yeah." "Sure, I'm a redhead." She says, "My husband's name." And I was, "Wow." I says, "Well, redhead's not very common, She says, "Well, it is around here." She says, "There's a lot of redheads around Vancouver." I was like, "Oh, that's fucking amazing." If I meet the right woman, I wouldn't mind becoming one of them, but it hasn't happened. I said, so, and you're married type of thing. So I go into Vancouver and stay there for a couple of days, fucking raining non-stop. It's a nice little island. Remember having the tent up, it was all long grass everywhere, the tents everywhere. I think, well, we need bears on this island, like, they'll have got rid of all the bears, like, so that's safe. Remember sort of dishevelled coming out of some grass where I'd packed up the tent on a morning and just sort of coming out of, and this old couple, maybe he's walking a dog or something, she looked at us and says, "Oh God." And then they were sort of saying, "Oh, like a tramp homeless, and she says, to her husband, "Hasn't he got nice teeth though? Hasn't he got nice teeth?" So they're in the mind of thinking, well, he cannot be that down and out because he's got the nice teeth, So that morning, ferry back. I have to get the bus from the ferry terminal to Vancouver Island. I'll go into the middle of Vancouver. I'll have to get somewhere I'll find a hostel in Kip. I've got 2 days to get the plane. So I get off the bus in Vancouver, in the city centre, and I just start walking. And in the distance, I can see a big cruise ship, in the centre of Vancouver, obviously, because it comes from the sea, and then you've got this big open bit of water in the centre of Vancouver, and I can see a big cruise ship, a really impressive modern one, massive. So in the distance, I'm going to go and have a look at that for something to do. So I start walking towards that, and as I'm walking towards it, I'm seeing the distance, there's a line of people, like at the sort of this harbour sort of thing, line of people, tourists, all looking at the ship all the way along, all the way around, lots and lots of people, and not like rows deep, maybe just one row, but they're all along the stretch of barricade fence around the edges harbour looking at this ship. So I walk up, I'll just stand behind them. So I stop behind some people, put the rucksack down on the ground, and as I'm looking, I see the back of these legs, and I says, "Fucking hell, what the fuck?" And then this person turns around and it's Steve. It's Steve. I fucking put the bag down, and I just, obviously because of all the walking, I recognised the back. Steve would always walk ahead when we're walking. When we weren't cycling out like that, Steve would always want to be walking ahead. He would hate to be walking behind. So at the finish, I just give in. I just fucking hell, if he wants to walk in front, let him walk in front. And so I got another back of them legs, like, and his socks and his boots, and he turns around. Obviously, we're both of the. I mean, I'm swearing like a trooper, like, because like, wow, what the fuck's this? And Steph's there, and he's like, "Oh, what you doing here? What you?" And I says, "I can't believe this." I says, what's the chances of this happening? I haven't seen him for like whatever it's been, a couple of months or something. And I've had all them adventures myself, and there was no plan to be here. I says, well, what are you doing here? I thought you were going to South America. He says, well, we are, but we're just here for a few weeks, and then we're gonna head down there. He says, what are you doing here? He says, are you going to come with me? I says, no, Steve. I says, I cannot. And he kept on saying, are you going to come with us? I says, no, my plane's booked. I'm off to Frankfurt in 2 days' time. I'm getting a plane from Vancouver. And he's, fuck, man, you know. I says, and I'm saying, Steve, what the fuck's the chance of this, man? This is just ridiculous. I think Steve's thinking it's fate, you know. You should be coming to bloody, come with me, man, come with me, you know. And I was like, you know, that was over for me. I was wanting to go back. I was wanting to get to Germany, you know. But anyway, went. Well, how I will go, gone back. Well, so they were staying at, it's like a hostel room, and the sort of Turkish landlord wasn't happy when he saw the three at the door, and he's like, you know, you can't take people in. You can't. It's only for you two, me and Steph and Steve. And I'm getting a bit, what was this fucker like? And Steph's like calming me down, like, fucking, don't man, different man, you'll ruin it for us, you know. I said, who the fuck's he talking to, like? You know, so anyway, he sort of went away, and I did stay there that night. And maybe it was a couple of nights, actually. Maybe Steph gave me a bit of money, you know. But anyway, that sort of, after that meeting, I just didn't like the attitude, you know. Just didn't like the attitude. You know, you don't just start shouting at people like that, like, fuck off, you know. I still don't like that attitude. You don't have an attitude with people like that, you know. Well, certainly not in the first world, you don't, anyway. You know, fuck them. So, we go out to, Steve says, come on, I'll know this great bar. He says, this is a great bar, we'll take this bar. So we go to this bar, and there's nobody in it. It's the daytime, you know. And we sit down around this big white table, me, Steve and Steph, cracking a beer, got a beer going. And he's saying, I look around, there's only a couple of blokes knocking about. He says, it's a gay bar. I says, a gay bar? He says, aye. He says, and then this fella who would have been in his 20s, he's in like a soccer outfit, right? He jumps up onto the table and starts dancing. He's a male stripper, and he's dancing, and he starts stripping. And I'm just sitting there clutching me sort of beer and looking at Steve and Steph, you know, they're sort of, Steve's looking at me, and then he's looking at this fella, and he's like smiling, you know, look at me and look at this fella, and he's like, you know, trying to out us, you know, he's wanting to find out once and for all type of thing, you know. You know, and you know, why haven't I been approaching any women and all that, you know. Steve knew me, you know, and I knew Steve, you know, so we'll keep it at that anyway. So he's, you know, he's up there, and you know, and he's tattles swinging about, you know, like fucking knob slapping from side to side near my forehead. I'm just sitting. And then he jumps off, you know, gathers his clothes and walks off. I mean, he didn't give him any money. Steve didn't. I don't think Steve wouldn't have given him out. I think Steph might have given him something. Probably Steph did, you know, being the old pro that she was, you know. And so he gans off, and then Steve kneels forward. He says, like smiling his face, you know. He says, "What do you reckon, Rob? What do you reckon about the stripper, you know?" And I says, "Steve, I says it's just like the Sunday." I says, that what happened there was like the Sunday League football back in Britain, back at the bar after they've won a match, and obviously, and Steve's just cracked up, you know. I mean, I would crack Steve up all the fucking time, like. And he was just, and Steph's going, what does he mean? What does he mean? What's that mean? What's that mean? And Steve's fucking in hysterics. And then we went to another bar recommended by Steve. I think he sort of, you know, well, say no more, but he knew where these bars were, like, you know, sort of thing. So we're at this other bar, and we're sitting having a drink. It's quiet as well, it's through the daytime. And this Native American, camp as fuck, Native American fella comes up, and he's got necklaces, the Native American necklaces. He makes them, and he's draped them across his hand, and he says to Steph and Steve, he's looking, and he says, he comes over, he says, in a very camp gear way, at last, some great looking guys have come to the bar, you know, and Steph's just giggling, and he gives Steph a necklace, and he gives Steve a necklace, and then I put my hand out, think he's going to give me one, and he says, "Not you," and I'm like, "Oh, fucking hell!" And he was just being a bitch. He was just taunting us, you know. And Steph's going, no, give him one. It's all giggly and that. And he's sort of like, go on then. And he gives us this necklace. Oh, thank you very much, mate. Fucking brilliant. That. And I wore that necklace for a long time. So anybody thinks I've been to Native, you know, everybody thought like I've been to Canada, you know, probably some butch warrior, you know, through some fucking, you know, something that I'd done had earned this Native American necklace that I wore around my neck for the next 12 months, you know. No, it was just some camp faggot from fucking some gay bar in Calgary, you know. So, and that's, you know, when you say the word faggot, right? Faggoty. Well, when we were in with the Aussie gay lad in the Hollywood motel, going back, he would be faggot this, faggot that, and I remember saying one time, I says, "Well, you're saying the word faggot like, but you're gay, you know?" And he says, "Doesn't matter." He says, "So what?" He says, "It's just a good word, you know." And I remember thinking, aye, that's all right. That I says, "That's all right." That, like, suppose own the fucking word, like, you know. So that was that, you know, and so me and Steve had been on this sort of journey together, and bizarre coincidence, meeting up, rounded off with fucking sleaze, basically, you know, right at the end. And you know, I was thinking, well, I've got all these memories now. You know, I've got all these memories now. I think, you know, Steve had said to us, you know, he said, "Well, Rob, you know, you said you want to come away to change, and you have changed, like." And I says, "Really, you think so?" He says, he says, you've definitely changed, like. You know, you've definitely set out what you wanted to do. And yeah, I had. But of course, you know, I've just said there, as I've been speaking, I've just said there, and I've just sort of realised we're in these bars and I've had a drink. I wasn't drinking. I was not drinking. I wasn't drinking. I'd stopped drinking. You know, I knew that was stopping drinking for the rest of my life. Like 2 weeks earlier, back in Calgary, I knew that was it. So I wasn't drinking. So when Steve's been saying you've changed, that's what he's sort of meaning, like, as well as probably changed a little bit. But the fact that I wasn't drinking, you know, I was not drinking. So at this gay bar with this stripping soccer fella and this camp Native American in this other bar, I wasn't drinking. So I knew I would never drink again. I just knew it. I knew it, and I didn't really know that the whole trip I thought was going to be about me shaking off the memory of this girlfriend that I'd had, Dutch girlfriend, who were together at university a few years earlier, and I carried that for far too long. My fucking hell, snap out of it. You can only snap out of it depending on what type of person you are. And the trip I knew hadn't cured that. Like, it had made us grow up a lot, I think. This is what I'm thinking, it had made us grow up a lot because of the adventure, really. And it's not really sinking in that much really deeply about how much of a great adventure it was, because I'm still young and it's all still happening. And I'm not really thinking about how profound the stopping the drinking alcohol is, because I knew I was never going to drink again. But, never drink again is still a long time. Never again is a long time. So, but I knew I wasn't. But I still wasn't registering that's really what the whole trip might have been for me, like, at the end of the day. So Steve's saying, you have changed, probably been a little bit of that, because Steve did like a drink. He just wouldn't get hammered, Hugs. Have a great time. And they went off and do their thing. And I went off to do my thing. And that was the end of that. Now, thinking I'll see Steve again. And I did see Steve again. So I have no recollection whatsoever of jumping on the plane in Vancouver. I have no memory of going to the airport at all. I have no memory of being on the aeroplane itself. I mean, that's a lot. How can I not remember? I cannot remember anybody on the plane flight. Did I just zonk out? Was I just asleep? All I remember is walking out of Frankfurt Airport, which is sort of like fences around the airport, like high fences, like dark green. I remember it. Now the color of the it's out in the sticks a bit, so it's out in the sort of, it's rural, Frankfurt Airport. So I just remember walking out there with my rucksack. The grass is dark green. It's dark green now because the climate's all different in it. So, and the lights going down, it's starting to get dark. So I have the recollection of walking out of the airport and seeing there's like a long stretch of trees. It's obviously a forest sort of thing next to this sort of main road. No litter though, not in Germany. And certainly not then. And I remember walking into these trees, and the airport's just sort of out the way a bit, it's getting dark quick, so. But I didn't feel safe. Maybe it's because the main road was still quite near, and I didn't want to go too far into this woodland because I don't want to get lost, basically. It was good feeling to know that there was no grizzly bears about. That was a relief. I'm thinking, fucking hell, I can actually kip anywhere now and not worry about that. So that was great. But it was human beings I was thinking about, worrying about, not grizzly bears. You're instantly sort of feeling the sort of people everywhere type of thing. It's not spread out. There's more cars on the road than way more than that I'm getting used to, because I've been out in the Wales. This out in the Wales in Europe's not out in the Wales in Canada, population wise. So I see this wooden sort of tree house. There's a ladder going up this tree, and halfway up the tree there's like it's like a bird spotting thing, where people would go up and sit in and with the binoculars and look at the birds coming and that. So it was getting dark pretty sharpish, so I've climbed up this ladder. There's a bench in there, and getting the sleeping bag out. I remember putting the tent pegs up against, there was no door to shut yourself in, so I put these tent pegs up against the door thing in case there was any intruders, and out here the tent pegs rattling away, falling away. Because I just think from the freedom and the open space of Canada, there's just the shock of it just felt like boom, it's kind of back to reality, And I managed to get a kip that night, but I was waking up every couple of hours, like, and sort of walking up, to the sound of a busy road near an airport. I'm in a fucking tree house, up halfway up a tree. The weather's colder. Summer's gone, man. But the adventure still wasn't over yet. Still wasn't over yet.